Hello, this is Adam with DreamMade Productions. This video is made possible by the very kind donations of viewers like you. Thank you. If you are in a position to help this channel improve quality and grow, please visit my Patreon page at www.patreon.com/DreamMadeProductions, linked below.
It is the 31st century, and mankind is once again at war. The battlefields of the future are dominated by huge robotic war machines known as battlemechs.
Hello, and welcome back to The Arsenal, a series where we look at the weapons, equipment, and technology of the BattleTech universe. Today, we are looking at a pair of technologies. Weapon systems designed to deal with an age-old battlefield problem in different ways. In the 31st century, the battlemech is more or less universally recognized as the king of the battlefield. And while the battlemech is indeed a potent weapon system, in my opinion, it is not the end-all, be-all of weapons. Battlemechs, warships, combat vehicles, VTOLs, aerotech assets, all these weapons pale in comparison to the lethality and flexibility of a well-trained and motivated and pissed off 19-year-old with his battle rifle. Today, we take a brief look at the infantry, along with two weapons designed to combat them, the machine gun and the flamer. It should speak volumes that the humble infantry soldier is still the most common battlefield unit throughout all human history. I can't count the number of times tactical planners have heralded infantry as being obsolete. Yet, nothing, arguably even the vacuum of space, can remove infantry from the battlefield. Why is this? Well, I contend that infantry are still the only unit that can seize and hold ground. Most wars are not just fought for the hell of it. Even the clanners don't fight amongst themselves for no reason. Well, clan versus clan anyway, I mean. Internally, who knows what those weirdos do. Anyway, most battles are fought over some kind of resource. A planet, a city, a factory, raw materials. Normally, there is something that one side wants and the other side is unwilling to part with. Either way, sooner or later, it all comes down to infantry. All other weapons are more or less limited to just destruction. If you want to take something, you need someone to sweep through, room by room, securing the objective. Now I hear what some people are about to say. What's wrong with a little destruction? Sometimes we don't want to claim something. We just want to keep the other guy from having it. This is true. Nothing can complete your destroy objective quite like a mech opening up on it, or maybe calling in for an air, artillery, or orbital strike. No need for infantry, right? Wrong. You have a base somewhere, right? Who is protecting it? Despite claims to the contrary, mech warriors cannot live in their mechs. Sooner or later, a mech warrior will have to dismount. What then? One well-placed raid can take out your entire operation with a few shots. What about warships then? You can just keep your vulnerabilities in orbit where infantry cannot strike. True, in theory you could do that, but are you really going to send drop ships back and forth, burning all that time and fuel each and every time? Even then, you know boarding actions are a thing, right? Without some Marines protecting the crew, a few well-armed invaders can easily seize your mighty warship. There is also the cost element involved. Even a light battlemech costs hundreds of thousands of C-bills to deploy and maintain. That's assuming everything goes perfectly, and you have no repair costs or other combat-related expenses. Rounding up a few bodies, shoving some combat rifles in their hands, taking a few hours to teach them to use the things, and pointing your small mob in the right direction can be surprisingly both cost and combat effective. Further, building battle mech or combat vehicle, or let alone aerotech facilities, can be expensive and time-consuming. Servicing a battle mech alone requires special technicians, heavy lifting equipment, machining equipment, welders, tools, coolant exchangers. Even a basic support facility is going to cost a lot of time and effort to set up. A basic infantry support facility just requires the infantry to have a shovel and some time on their hands. You would be surprised how effective digging a 10-foot hole is, throwing some logs or maybe some scrap metal over the top, then shoveling some of that dirt back on top. It can really ruin a mech warrior's day. Battle mechs are packed with sensors, but most are geared towards keeping track of vehicles or other mechs. Chances are you will be able to spot infantry hiding in bunkers or buildings, but then again, you might not. Now, I feel I should clarify my meaning here. When I say infantry, I'm talking about the common, unaugmented soldier. Augmented humans, whether mechanically like battle armor, genetically like the clan weirdos, or the cybernetic nightmares of the Word of Blake, are a topic for another day. A major advantage of infantry is their flexibility. Infantry can be divided into different types depending on its means of locomotion. Foot infantry is exactly what it sounds like. Troops reliant on their boots to move them. Cheap and flexible. A step up would be motorized infantry. Motorized infantry move in unprotected vehicles, motorbikes, common trucks, and other means of moving quickly. Mechanized infantry is a step up further in terms of protection. These troops move around in lightly armored half trucks or APCs. Airborne infantry may be delivered via VTOLs or traditional paratroopers. From here, we move into two, arguably three additional types. Jump infantry come equipped with jetpacks, allowing them to fly or leap. Expensive, but extremely hard to defend against. There are also beast-mounted infantry. Now, one might question the effectiveness of cavalry in the 31st century battlefield, but one has to remember there are some pretty exotic xeno life forms out there. Even the traditional Terran horse has its advantages. The animal can be trained, making it smarter than a mechanical vehicle. It can eat grass rather than rely on supply resources. Finally, I have my own type of hazardous environment infantry. Infantry can be used in conditions humans normally cannot survive, from a simple diving suit for underwater to complex spacesuits for battle in the void. Now granted, one-on-one, a single infantryman armed with a ballistic rifle is not much of a threat to a battle mech, but how rare such an encounter is. Infantry platoons rarely number less than a dozen men, with some formations of over 30 moving as one. For better or for worse, the lethality of weapons on the modern battlefield cannot be overstated. Even the humblest of modern battle rifles can fire armor-piercing rounds that can, in theory, penetrate battle mech armor. Multiple hits will likely be needed in the same area to weaken the plates, but if you get close enough, and enough of them open up all at once, well, many a king of the battlefield has fallen when he has gotten overconfident or let his guard down. Aside from this, virtually all modern infantry units are given magnetic or chemically bonded explosive charges. Infantry can race out of their holes, slap high explosive charges to a mech's legs, and run like hell. A brick or two won't do a lot of damage, but dozens of fist-sized chunks, some slid into armor slits for joint movement, well, it can get very messy. And we haven't even mentioned the little bugger's ability to carry support weapons, shoulder-mounted rocket or missile launchers, field guns, man-serviced machine guns, not to mention the ability to call in a mech's location to other mechs, LRM carriers, airstrikes, and other supporting units. A mech's ability to respond is also somewhat limited. Most mech-grade weapons are designed to focus their damage to a single point, the idea being to defeat enemy armor. Firing something like a large laser into a group of infantry may absolutely vaporize one poor unlucky sap, but the guy a few feet away is still there and combat effective. Well, mostly. No one could just shrug off watching their bodies smoking boots and not have a little reaction anyway. Since most weapons are designed with armored targets in mind, even explosive weapons like missiles and autocannons are not as effective against infantry formations. Missiles, for instance, channel their explosion forward. This allows the weapon to reliably penetrate the armor of battle mechs and combat vehicles. And while the explosion will be more effective than the laser example, since the blast is focused, it cannot scatter out. Forces have created unfocused or shrapnel field, or even missiles dumping loads of sub-munitions to better deal with infantry. The problem then is that those weapons lack the force needed to penetrate military-grade armor, at least reliably. History has taught us that no matter how advanced the weapon system, a gun is always a good way of dealing with these kinds of problems. The modern battle mech grade machine gun has not changed all that much in 1,000 years. Saying machine gun, however, is just a general description, kind of like saying knife. Machine guns come in all shapes and sizes, from barrel length, ammo type, and machine action. From a combat perspective, it really does not make that much difference. Rounds are fed up from an ammo bin to a machine gun which fires these rounds in ways proven since before man took to the sky, let alone space. A mech-grade machine gun weighs about 1,000 Starleague pounds or half a ton and take up a full critical slot. That sounds like a lot, and it is, but you have to keep in mind these mechs mount machine guns that are finely crafted and heavily reinforced. They virtually never jam and include mini heat sinks and or cooling jackets to keep the barrels cool. Unlike most machine guns that will overheat when fired constantly, requiring burst fire or barrels to regularly be swapped out, mech-mounted machine guns can fire away till, well, frankly, you run out of ammunition. These machine guns are loaded with heavy armor-piercing rounds that can still be dangerous to combat vehicles and even other battle mechs, dealing 2 points of damage with a successful blast to such targets. The low-tech nature of the machine gun draws no power from the fusion engine, meaning the weapon does not create any meaningful amount of heat. The downside is that most machine guns are extremely short-ranged weapons. You can hit pretty well at point-blank range of 1. Outside of that, your combat computer's ability to keep rounds together falls off quickly. The thing is firing so fast and rounds bounce and tumble around so much, even though you can normally fire further, well, you will just be pelting a general area with no idea really where the rounds are going to land. On the upside, a machine gun round is tiny and weighs virtually nothing. Super light cases and high efficiency powder grains means that the largest and heaviest part of the bullet is the projectile. Filling up a mech-sized ammo bin with a full ton of machine gun ammunition is a virtually limitless supply. A good technician can squeeze almost 1,000,000 rounds into an ammo bin, though most will carry somewhat less. The downside is that, unlike other larger weapons, there is no electronics or let's go with less combustible parts of a weapon system when it comes to a machine gun round. You have essentially an ammo bin completely filled with high explosives, with a few pounds worth of projectile and casting mixed in. An ammo bin shaped brick of propellant just sitting there. In mechanized combat, machine guns are not useless. They can provide a dangerously overheating mech offense while it has time to cool itself. But in most engagements, they can be more a disadvantage than an advantage. So why carry them? Because machine guns eat through infantry. The casualties you will inflict when firing a concentrated burst into an infantry formation will vary. There is simply no way to predict who is going to be standing where and what rounds are going to ricochet where. Generally speaking, you are going to drop at least 2 unlucky soldiers. Meanwhile, a very lucky shot could net you a dozen casualties. On the other side of things is a weapon I tend to favor a little more than the machine gun. Since ancient times, mankind has found ways of weaponizing fire. Age-old methods evolved into the modern flamer. There are essentially 2 types. The first is the chemical flamer, or vehicle flamer as it is more often called. These weapons are thousands of years old in their basic design. A highly combustible gel is put under pressure when sprayed at a target with a pilot light setting it ablaze as it exits the barrel or hose. Early battle mechs used these weapon systems, the legacy of which is still apparent on mechs like the Firestarter and Vulcan, with chemical storage and pressure tanks incorporated into their armor's design. The modern mech flamer, or plasma flamer, or just flamer, operates differently, but these tank blisters are still incorporated into the Firestarter and other designs, partially because of aesthetics, but also to preserve the option of chemical flamers on battle mechs, just in case. The current flamer, however, is not so much a chemical weapon as it is an energy weapon. A battle mech flamer draws superheated gases called plasma from the mech's fusion engine and directs it down a series of magnetically reinforced pipes to nozzles or barrels on the outside of the mech. The result is the air itself bursting into flame as jets of plasma shoot out into the surrounding area. You are, after all, basically spraying a small area of what a star is made up of. The result is a brief but extreme firestorm. The plasma cools quickly, so range is very limited. Flamers are most useful at point-blank range of 1, quickly falling off beyond that. The burning plasma does diffuse and cool quickly outside of range 3. The cloud will be spent. The result to armored targets can be dependent. A concentrated burst will be hot enough to melt away some armor, dealing about 2 points of damage. On the other hand, fanning a target with a wide flame won't generally be enough to penetrate military-grade armor, but will heat up the target by 1. Just heat, but also making heat sinks unable to dump heat. Since their heat exchangers are bathed in burning plasma, they will be either useless or worse, carrying now even hotter coolant back into the system. Either way, the target's going to have to deal with about 2 extra heat it would otherwise not have to deal with. The flamer assembly and piping weighs about 1 ton and takes up a critical slot, so the weapon is not overly large or heavy. Since the weapon is fueled by fusion engines plasma, there is no ammo to speak of. The only downside is that firing the weapon means channeling superheated gases through your mech where it is not really supposed to be. This, along with the strain of the engine to build up more plasma and the electromagnets needed to reinforce pipes, means your mech is going to heat up by 3 when the weapon is fired. For 2 damage at such close range, that is a lot. Still, the weapon is extremely useful when confronted with infantry forces. Blasting those flames down into an infantry formation is going to bathe an area in fire. You are almost assured somewhere between 3 and 18 men down, since the flames will lap around corners and find cracks machine gun rounds will not. Plus, you don't have to directly hit someone to render them combat incapable. All that fire heats up the area, potentially killing just from the temperature, or consuming all the O2 in a tight space. You also have the added benefit of intimidation. Everything is afraid of fire, and no matter how well trained, the genetic knowledge of burning to death will override almost any conscious thought. A flamer also has other uses. A flamer can easily burn vegetation in your way, clearing a path through forest or brush. It can similarly be used to burn through vegetation to create smoke screens, confusing some sensors and obscuring your target visually. Given the choice between the two, I tend to favor the flamer. It's heavier, and you have to watch your heat levels, but there is no ammo to explode on an unlucky hit. You can remove woodland cover your enemy may be using against you, and nothing convinces an angry mob of citizens to go back to their homes quite like watching a stone statue liquefied by a concentrated flamer burst while getting sunburns from 30 feet away. That is just my opinion. How do you feel about the trustworthy machine gun, the flamer, and using infantry in the 31st century? Let me know below. If you have a weapon or piece of equipment you would like to see covered, leave a comment. And as always, I hope you enjoy the battle reps that are to come. Hello, this is Adam with DreamMade Productions. Thank you for watching my content. It really means a lot that you have given me the chance to entertain you. If you would like to support the channel, please visit my Patreon at patreon.com/DreamMadeProductions, linked below. Also below is a link for PayPal, or links if you would like to send crypto, if that's more your thing. Please know any amount that you give will be cherished and used to upgrade equipment and improve the channel. You can also help the channel by subscribing, turning on notifications, liking, commenting, and sharing my channel with anyone you think might be interested. Thank you again for watching, and I hope you enjoy the battle reps that are to come. Hello, this is Adam with DreamMade Productions. This video is made possible by the very kind donations of viewers like you. Thank you. If you are in a position to help this channel improve quality and grow, please visit my Patreon page at www.patreon.com/DreamMadeProductions, linked below.
It is the 31st century, and mankind is once again at war. The battlefields of the future are dominated by huge robotic war machines known as battlemechs.